In this episode, we bring the full Security Plus SY0-801 course together into one memory map, so you can see how the major ideas connect instead of treating them as separate piles of terms. A certification exam can feel overwhelming when every topic looks isolated. Threats, controls, architecture, operations, identity, cloud, monitoring, risk, compliance, and training can all seem like separate subjects if you study them one at a time. The memory map helps you step back and see the larger pattern. Threats create pressure. Vulnerabilities create openings. Controls reduce risk. Architecture organizes protection. Operations produce evidence. Governance guides decisions. When you remember those relationships, the exam becomes easier to reason through. You are not just trying to recognize words. You are learning how security work fits together in a real organization. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is part of our companion study series. The first book is a detailed study guide that explains the exam and helps you prepare for it with confidence. The second is a Kindle-only ebook with 1,000 flashcards you can use on your mobile device or Kindle for quick review. You can find both at Cyber.Me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Start with the first major idea. Security begins with what can go wrong. That means threats, vulnerabilities, and risk. A threat is something that could cause harm, such as a criminal actor, malware, social engineering, system failure, insider misuse, or a natural event. A vulnerability is a weakness that could be used or triggered, such as missing updates, weak passwords, poor configuration, exposed data, or lack of monitoring. Risk is the possibility of loss when a threat can affect an asset through a vulnerability. This is one of the most important mental models in the whole course. Do not memorize threat, vulnerability, and risk as three flat definitions only. See them as a chain. Something valuable exists, something could harm it. A weakness creates opportunity, and the organization may suffer impact if the event happens. The next piece of the memory map is the core security goal of protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability, often called the CIA triad. Confidentiality means information is only seen by people, systems, or processes that are allowed to see it. Integrity means information and systems remain accurate, complete, and trustworthy. Availability means systems and data are usable when needed. Many exam questions become clearer when you ask which part of the triad is being protected. Encryption often protects confidentiality. Hashing can help verify integrity. Backups, redundancy, and failover support availability. Access control can support more than one goal because it limits who can view, change, or use something. When a scenario feels crowded, look for the harm. Is the problem unauthorized viewing, unauthorized change, or interruption of service? That question often points you toward the right control. Threats lead naturally to controls, and controls are the safeguards that reduce likelihood, reduce impact, detect activity, or support recovery. Preventive controls try to stop something before it happens. Detective controls help identify that something happened or is happening. Corrective controls help restore a safer state after a problem. Deterrent controls discourage behavior. Compensating controls provide an alternate safeguard when the preferred control is not possible. Physical controls protect spaces, equipment, and people. Administrative controls guide behavior through policies, procedures, training, and governance. Technical controls use systems and technology to enforce protection. This control model helps you avoid thinking every answer must be a tool. Sometimes the right answer is a policy, a review, a lock, a camera, a training requirement, a backup, or a log. A strong security program layers different kinds of controls together. Architecture is the next major part of the course, and it is where controls become part of a designed environment. Architecture asks how systems, networks, applications, identities, data, and cloud services are arranged so they can be protected in a consistent way. Defense in depth means using multiple layers so one failure does not expose everything. Segmentation limits how far an attacker or failure can spread. Secure design reduces risk before systems are deployed. Zero trust thinking means access should be continuously evaluated based on identity, device, context, and need, instead of assuming that everything inside a network is automatically trustworthy. Cloud architecture adds shared responsibility, where the provider protects some layers and the customer remains responsible for identity, data, configuration, and use. The memory map here is simple. Architecture shapes the battlefield before the incident happens. Identity and access management, IAM, is one of the strongest threads running through the entire course because identity is often the front door to systems and data. IAM asks who you are, how you prove it, what you are allowed to do, and how that access is reviewed over time. Authentication verifies identity. Authorization grants permissions. Accounting records activity so actions can be traced. Least privilege means you receive only the access needed for the job. Role-based access can make permissions easier to manage by connecting access to job responsibilities. Multi-factor authentication, MFA, reduces the risk that a stolen password alone will be enough for an attacker. Privileged access needs special care because administrator rights can change systems, view sensitive data, and disable protections. When you see an access scenario, think identity, proof, permission, review, and accountability. Data protection is another major part of the memory map because data is often what attackers want and what organizations are responsible for protecting. Data has a life cycle. It is created, collected, stored, used, shared, retained, archived, and eventually disposed of. Different controls apply at different points in that life cycle. Classification helps you recognize sensitivity. Encryption protects data by making it unreadable without the proper key. Hashing helps verify that data has not changed. Tokenization replaces sensitive values with substitute values to reduce exposure. Data loss prevention, DLP, can help detect or prevent sensitive data from leaving approved channels. Retention rules explain how long data should be kept, and disposal rules explain how it should be safely removed. The memory map here is that data protection is not one control. It is a set of decisions across the entire life of information. Operations are where security becomes daily work. Operational security includes monitoring, logging, vulnerability management, patching, alerting, backup review, incident handling, access reviews, change control, and continuous improvement. A security program that looks strong on paper can still fail if operations are weak. Logs provide evidence. Monitoring helps detect suspicious behavior. Vulnerability management helps find and prioritize weaknesses before they are exploited. Patch management reduces known technical exposure. Change management helps prevent accidental outages or uncontrolled configuration drift. Backups support recovery when systems fail or data is damaged. Security operations also depend on tuning because too many noisy alerts can hide real danger. This part of the course connects controls to evidence. You do not only need protections in place. You need to know whether they are working, whether they are failing, and whether anyone is responding. Incident response connects threat understanding, operations, and decision-making under pressure. An incident may begin with a suspicious alert, a user report, malware activity, a lost device, a compromised account, or unusual network traffic. The response process helps the organization avoid panic. Preparation makes response possible before anything happens. Identification confirms what is going on. Containment limits damage. Eradication removes the cause. Recovery restores normal operations. Lessons learned help improve the program after the event. Evidence handling, communication, escalation, and documentation matter because the organization may need to understand what happened, who was affected, what data was involved, and what obligations apply. The memory map is that incident response is not just technical cleanup. It is controlled decision-making during uncertainty, and it depends on the planning, logging, training, and governance that existed before the incident. Resilience and recovery form another major connection point. Security is not only about preventing bad events. It is also about keeping the organization alive when prevention fails or when disruption comes from something other than an attacker. A business continuity plan, BCP, helps the organization continue critical functions during disruption. A disaster recovery plan, DRP, focuses on restoring technology and services. Backups, alternate sites, redundancy, failover, power protection, environmental controls, and recovery testing all support resilience. Business impact analysis helps determine which functions matter most and how long they can be unavailable. This part of the course connects availability to business reality. Not every system has the same priority. Not every outage creates the same harm. Strong resilience starts by knowing which services matter, what they depend on, and how they can be restored. Governance, risk, and compliance, GRC, is the part of the memory map that explains why security decisions are made and who is responsible for them. Governance sets direction through policy, standards, roles, accountability, and oversight. Risk management identifies what could go wrong, assesses likelihood and impact, assigns owners, records risks, and chooses treatment options such as mitigate, transfer, accept, or avoid. Compliance connects security behavior to laws, regulations, contracts, standards, and internal requirements. This area can feel less technical, but it is essential because security resources are limited. Leaders need a way to decide what matters most, what risk is acceptable, and what evidence proves obligations are being met. The memory map here is that governance guides decisions, risk prioritizes action, and compliance proves required behavior. Without this layer, security can become scattered effort instead of managed protection. Third-party risk belongs inside governance because organizations rarely operate alone. Vendors, suppliers, consultants, partners, service providers, cloud platforms, contractors, and subcontractors can all extend risk beyond the organization's direct control. Vendor selection, due diligence, contracts, service expectations, right to audit, monitoring, and exit planning help manage that exposure. Service-level agreements, SLA, define performance expectations. Non-disclosure agreements, NDA, protect confidential information. Statements of work, SOW, define specific tasks and deliverables. Vendor assessments and attestations provide evidence, but their scope and date matter. Lock-in, jurisdiction, geography, and subcontractors can all affect risk. The memory map is that a vendor can be outside the organization and still affect the organization's security, privacy, availability, and reputation. Outsourcing work does not outsource accountability completely. Audits and assessments connect the program back to evidence. An audit asks whether reality matches requirements. Assessments gather proof through sampling, interviews, questionnaires, logs, documents, configurations, observations, and assertions. Scope defines what is included. A charter gives authority and direction. Gap analysis compares the current state to a required or desired state. Internal reviews help the organization check itself. External reviews provide independent perspective. Regulatory reviews test formal obligations. Benchmarking compares maturity or performance against a useful reference point. Penetration testing and other technical assessments test whether controls hold up under realistic conditions. Functional testing checks whether controls work. Behavioral testing checks how people and processes respond. The memory map here is that evidence matters. Security is stronger when the organization can show what is required, what exists, what works, what failed, and what is being improved. Security awareness ties the whole course back to daily human behavior. People are not separate from security. You are part of the control environment every time you choose how to handle data, respond to a suspicious message, protect a device, report a mistake, approve access, or follow a procedure. Onboarding training sets expectations when someone joins. Ongoing training keeps those expectations fresh. Targeted training focuses on roles and risks. Corrective training helps improve behavior after mistakes. Delivery methods such as a learning management system, LMS, self-service resources, one-to-one coaching, and one-to-many instruction help the program reach people in different ways. Metrics and reporting help measure whether behavior is improving. The memory map is that many attacks succeed through normal moments of trust, pressure, confusion, or convenience. Awareness helps make safer behavior normal. The final connection is that the 5 major domains are not separate worlds. Threats and vulnerabilities explain why security is needed. Architecture and design explain how protection is built into systems and environments. Operations explain how protection is monitored, maintained, and used during real events. Resilience and response explain how the organization survives when something goes wrong. Governance, risk, compliance, third-party management, audits, and awareness explain how decisions are guided, proven, and improved. If you remember one course-wide sentence, make it this: threats lead to controls, controls support architecture, operations produce evidence, and governance guides decisions. That sentence gives you a way to reason through unfamiliar scenarios. When an exam question feels new, ask where it fits on the map. Is it about a threat, a weakness, a control, a design choice, an operational signal, a response decision, a risk choice, or an evidence requirement? The main idea to carry forward is that Security plus SY0-801 is not asking you to memorize disconnected facts. It is asking whether you can recognize security problems and choose reasonable actions based on risk, protection, evidence, and responsibility. The memory map helps you do that. Start with assets and what could harm them. Connect threats to vulnerabilities and risk. Use the CIA triad to understand what kind of harm matters. Choose controls that match the goal. Place those controls inside secure architecture. Operate them through monitoring, logging, patching, incident response, and recovery. Govern them through policies, standards, risk decisions, compliance requirements, vendor oversight, audits, and training. When you can see those relationships, you are not just preparing for an exam. You are building the mental model that real cybersecurity work depends on.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.